So over the last 24 hours, the tariff situation has gotten kind of crazy. The federal court blocked Trump from imposing sweeping tariffs under emergency powers law. This happened like literally in the last 24 hours here. I got this news the morning of the 29th here. So basically they're saying it threw into doubt Trump's signature set of economic policies. He's basically built his economic policy on having these tariffs all over the world. We've seen how it's affected the market. The market's been really up and down, really volatile this year because every time he announces a new tariff, it seems like the stock goes down in the S&P 500 and in the market in general. It freaks people out, and it's causing some rifts with other countries as well, and we weren't really sure how this was going to play out, but now the U.S. courts are getting involved. So they're basically saying that his Liberation Day tariffs exceeded his authority and left the country's trade policy dependent on his whims. The whole point of this was he was trying to bring back manufacturing to the U.S., but the thing is, people have been questioning whether or not he has the authority to just do all these sweeping tariffs on these countries just kind of out of nowhere. So the court wrote right here that the worldwide and retaliatory tariff orders exceed any authority granted to the president by IEEPA to regulate importation by means of tariffs. Didn't seem to get rid of all the tariffs that he put in place under the Section 232 powers from the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, for instance, the 25% tax on most imported autos and parts, but it could still cause his economic policy to take a huge hit because all of it was basically centered around tariffs. And typically tariffs have to be approved by Congress. That's another thing that was confusing about this all happening without Congress approval in some cases. Another huge bit of news about this came from an article at Politico.com talking about this same thing, about the federal court striking down Trump's tariffs on countries around the world, but they added that the court's ruling also means that the government may have to pay back duties it has already collected. Anybody that has had to pay tariffs so far will be able to get them refunded. They're also saying that the case could end up in the Supreme Court because obviously there's a battle going on in the White House right now about this. But just imagine if they actually had to pay back the tariffs that they've already collected. And all of this, of course, is in the public eye around the world. Everybody's watching to see how this plays out. But then after that, just very recently, like a couple hours ago, more news came out that the tariffs may be back in place temporarily.
Hey, Mike, some moving trade news here. On that ruling overnight on the Trump administration's tariffs, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit now saying that all of those tariffs that were found to be unlawful are able to stay in place, at least temporarily, while this case moves through appeals. So essentially the administration's request for an emergency stay, meaning that the ruling would not yet take effect, that stay has now been temporarily granted while they give both sides more time to respond. Now, the court did set a June 5th deadline for the plaintiffs to then respond and for the administration to then respond again by June 9th. So in the coming weeks, we will see more movement on this. But what this means, Mike, is that in the meantime, it's status quo on the tariffs. Despite that ruling last night from the Court of International Trade, now the administration's request for an emergency stay or for some immediate relief has been granted. Trade negotiations can continue. Tariffs can continue to be collected as we see this case move further into appeals.
As far as how the markets respond, if you look at the S&P 500, right now it's up 0.4% today, and that's obviously what it's going to stay at for the 29th when pretty much all of this news was playing out throughout the day. So typically when a bunch of tariffs are announced that Trump is putting in place, the stocks go down. We've had some huge downturns when tariffs were announced, and then some of them are like, well, we're negotiating now, we're going to try to make some deals, and then they kind of rolled back what they were going to put on China, which helped a lot as well, helped consumer sentiment for the markets. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We have till basically June 9th to see how this is going to play out, or until we get more updates on who's going to win this battle of kind of Trump versus the courts on whether or not he has the authority to put all these tariffs in place and whether or not they're going to actually have to pay them back. So we have basically from now until June 9th to get some more news or to maybe even get a verdict